73% of the women in the Netherlands work part-time. 3.4 million Dutch women are not financially independent. Dutch women lack ambition on the work floor. They are being called lazy, part-time princesses, and there's the accusation of wasting public's money on an education that has been paid for but never been used. And on top of that, stay-at-home moms are a bad example for children. In this episode, Johanna Spiller and I talk about what happens when women start their careers in the Netherlands. And is working part-time indeed a problem? And if so, why is that a problem? Are we, Dutch women, aware of the financial consequences of our choice of working part-time? And is part-time working an actual free choice? My name is Tina de Keyzer. Welcome to a new episode of the Women's Table. Johanna Spiller is a purpose entrepreneur who is committed to closing the gender career and pay gap with her company Klapstoel Academy. Klapstoel Academy works with organizations that are leaders in gender equity and want to train their young female talents in career strategy, conflict management, and the impact of parenthood on one's career. She does that by connecting them to senior career women to get career advice and consult the organizations on building a mindset and culture around gender equity. Welcome, Johanna, and thank you for being here with me today. We have quite an interesting and controversial topic we are going to discuss.
We do.
So, do Dutch women lack ambition on the work floor and can we call them lazy? Let me start with a few numbers. In the Netherlands, 74% of the women work part-time. In Europe, this is the highest rating of women working part-time. In Belgium, 40%, and in France, only 29% of the women work part-time. Dutch women are being called lazy, part-time princesses, and there is also the accusation of wasting public's money on an education that has been paid for but never has been used. And stay-at-home moms are a bad example for children. So, why do you think it is a problem that Dutch women work part-time? What does it matter? Shouldn't be it like some choice? If you want to work part-time, stay home, taking care of your kids and the household. Why is it a problem? That's my dog's barking.
Well, first of all, wow, I don't even know what to say to all of this. Where
Yeah.
do I start? Is part-time working a choice? Yes and no. If you are aware of everything that comes with working part-time and you make an informed choice about doing it, of course, it is a choice.
Mhm.
But I do think that in the Netherlands, especially, there is a culture around part-time working that is just accepted as is. So it's also my personal experience. When I started my career within a huge tech company, I started working 4 days. And I had all the ambition. I wanted to be the next CEO of IBM. I really wanted to go up and out in my career.
Yeah.
So being part-time was not being lazy. It was neither being that there was a lack of ambition, but it was just a thing that everybody did.
Yeah.
I didn't even ask any questions about it. Everyone I knew, every woman I knew was working part-time, and these were also ambitious women. And I think the first time I looked differently at it was when my manager, who was a woman and a sponsor of mine, sat me down and had a conversation with me about what working part-time actually means for my career and why am I doing it if I want to go so high in my career. And she opened my eyes to that I actually made a very unconscious decision about something very important.
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot. And that's what I mean with culture of part-time. We just do it. We don't think about it. It's just something that kind of is expected. I read a really interesting article from the documentary maker of Waarom werken vrouwen niet?
Yeah.
And she wrote that she feels that actually working full time is an act of revolution because it is so uncommon in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. Because I watched the documentary Waarom werken vrouwen niet? And at one point, the presenter, she went to the high school and she asked a few students how many mothers work full time. And there were only 2 moms who worked full time. 2 of the whole class of children.
Yeah.
And one of them was an entrepreneur, and she worked like 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And also what I thought was quite interesting was there was this girl who had a stay-at-home mom, and they asked her what she felt about it, and she said, well, I do like the fact that my mom stays home, but when I'm grown up, I want to work full-time as well. I'm not going to be a stay-at-home mom. So I thought this was quite interesting because of the role models you have. Like if you have a stay-at-home mom, what are the chances that you will be a stay-at-home mom as well?
Yeah, interesting question. I wouldn't know the stats on it, but first of all, I think like you go, girl, you go and be that CEO
Yeah,
that you want to be, or whatever
yeah,
you want to be. It's not all about being a CEO, of course. And also ambition you can define very differently. So with my company, we work with young women in the first years of their career,
mm-hmm.
and not all of them want to be the next big thing in business, but there are also ambitions in becoming a mom. And also, to be honest, I think being a mom is also a lot of work, being a
Yeah,
parent.
yeah,
And some of the women we work with also define ambition for them to raising good kids.
yeah,
And that's okay too. But I think, again, is it a conscious decision that we are making
yeah,
in our careers when we start working part time? So, to adding to the numbers that you just said, 2/3 of women without children
yeah,
between 18 and
yeah,
25 work part time.
yeah,
And I don't fully understand why they added children to this statistic, but okay. So, 2/3 of women that
yeah,
come out of university work part time.
yeah,
And it's a lot. And the conversation that my manager had with me was with when you already start on 4 days and you have a colleague that works 5 days. That is not a huge difference at the beginning. But if you look 10 years ahead,
mm-hmm.
you will see that your colleague is further in his or her career than you are.
Yeah,
And the reason for that is you're missing out on the informal networking things. Yeah,
yeah,
having a drink at the bar and hearing that that project manager is leaving. So it's an opportunity for you. You are not as visible in the company.
yeah,
So on Wednesdays is where's Johanna? Oh, she's off. Like, oh, people remember that more than the days that you were actually
yeah,
there. And lastly, higher positions are always full-time positions.
yeah,
So when you then talk about motherhood, the step, if you have already worked always part time and you're 10 years ahead and you have
yeah,
a partner that has worked full time, you could find yourself in a situation where his career is just so much more advanced than
yeah,
yours that it is just logical and economically good
yeah,
for you to step down.
yeah,
That is exactly what I think. Are we always making the best informed decisions at the start of our careers?
yeah.
Because that's not a conversation I'm having a lot
No.
with young women. Do you?
Nou, what really worries me about the documentary, Waarom werken vrouwen niet, is the aspect of the financial consequences for women.
They're
Because
huge.
they're huge. Because when you work 2, 3, maybe 4 days a week, the less days you work, it affects your pension. It has consequences for when there is a divorce or a breakup. Women depend more on social security than men. Also interesting was the fact that was asked, what happens when there will be a divorce? Can you take care of yourself financially? And there was not one woman who wanted to answer that question. It was like, well, I'm not going to think about it. And I was like,
Mm,
I don't think that women realize the seriousness of the inequality of the financial consequences.
yeah.
It's a long sentence of working part-time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and if you look at the other countries like Belgium and Germany and France, that when asked, French women were really like, "Oh, do Dutch women work part time? Is it's something like the older generation, like women in the 50s or the 60s who work part time, and then our generation, the younger generation, work full time?" And it
Mm,
was like, no, as you just mentioned, 2/3 of young women between 18 and 25 work part-time.
yeah.
And that's something that a lot of women answered about, of course I'm going to work full-time because I want to be able to take care of myself. If I have to, I need to be able to live alone. And who
Yeah.
says that I'm not a good mother when I work full-time?
Yeah, it is also how we look at parenthood. And I agree with you that there is a lot that is going on a cultural level. So, in one of our programs, I was speaking to a senior female manager, and she's from Latvia.
Yeah.
And we had this conversation also about how do we encourage for women to stay in business. And she said, in where I'm from, women are doctors, they are in the police, they are lawyers, they have great jobs. Everyone has a job and they all work full time. So the first time for me where I realized I can't be everything is when I came to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, wow, that
Yeah.
is big. I mean, my cultural background is Germany. I'm German, and that is not my experience either. So in Germany, I also never thought that you could be everything. It's like the concept of entrepreneurship has not been explained to me until I came to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
But when I talked within my old job with colleagues from Eastern Europe, Romania, Bulgaria, they all work.
Yeah.
And they all work full time. If
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, Bulgaria has the highest number of female managers in Europe. They have
Yeah.
50-50.
Yeah.
And that's because it's just normal to work.
Yeah.
And I think it is normal to work. And I
Yeah.
think that women are capable of doing it. And at the end of the day, it stays a decision. And I think we shouldn't judge the decision of people. But at the end of the day, more women working part-time, there are studies done that say that will
Yeah.
encourage more women staying in
Yeah.
business too.
Yeah.
More women in top position, encourage more women in top position.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is where we want to head as a society,
Yeah.
right? I mean, this is not just my personal point of view, but the women's quota is coming for a reason.
Yeah. Also, other numbers 3.4 million women are financially depending on the income of their partners. This means that almost 50% of the women in the Netherlands is not financially independent.
Yeah. Is that always a bad thing? But of course, it's not a good thing. Yeah, there are more women. The Netherlands is also a country with a lot of highly educated
Yeah.
people. So when you say this number, there are a lot of highly educated women depending on that. So I think you do have the foundation to go and find a job. But it is a bit concerning, and it concerns me too. And I also see that there are sometimes reasons to depend on your
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay to have a conversation about it. What
Yeah.
are the reasons to be financially independent? And is it really because you're starting a business or you have a child that needs higher care?
Yeah.
Life is also sometimes just thrown at you and you need to make it work.
Yeah.
But is that true for all? What did you say? 67%?
Yeah. 74.
I don't know. Oh, 74.
Yeah.
74.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really high number.
It's a really high number. Yeah.
I think what is going on, in the career of women, a lot of things are going on. So first of all, they're confronted with a part-time culture.
Yeah.
So it is normal to do it.
Yeah.
It is not weird to do
Yeah.
it. Then what also happens, I think, is that women are really good at school. Yeah, that's also why women are higher educated in
Yeah.
the Netherlands. It's very result driven. You do a good job and you get good results.
Yeah.
And they have that mindset, and coming out of university, this is what they think. That's how the world works. But then they come into the business world and they have a bit of a culture shock, because suddenly it's not only about getting the best results and working the hardest anymore. It's about politics. It's about stakeholder management.
Yeah.
It's about playing the game. And what I said before with working 4 days and not being at the informal meetings, not being visible, this is all part of the game.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot more at play than just culture. So it doesn't matter how many hours they work, but they go from university into their first job. They have this culture shock, and then they are confronted with situations that are not easy.
Yeah.
So my company, we did research into what does actually happen in the first years of a woman's career, because there are statistics that say that the gender, career, and pay gap statistically opens when women turn 35.
Okay.
So what happens before 35?
Yeah.
There's been 4 moments identified in which women make a decision about their career. The first one is their first job. in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a nice manager? Do you have a nice team? Is it a welcoming culture? Do you get bullied? Do you get supported?
Yeah.
The second one is your first promotion. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so how does your job progression look like? Are you able to grow? Are you supported in your growth? If you don't get promoted, is explained to you why not? And do you feel that your other colleagues are promoted quicker than you?
Yeah.
And is that explained? The third one is conflict. And I think that is also something the way men and women are raised, that women have a different way of dealing with conflict
Yeah.
than men do. They see it often a lot more sportive. And it's a little bit more today you win, tomorrow I win.
Yeah.
And women take it a lot more to heart. So conflict, I've seen in my, I have to admit, not super long career, but I've seen in my career women stepping out or down after conflict situations that
Mm-hmm.
weren't resolved. And the last one is, of course, parenthood.
Yeah.
I think when we have the conversation about are women not ambitious or are women lazy, they're not in school.
Mm-hmm.
They are not in university. They are on average performing super high. And
Yeah.
also, when you look at the statistics, women in the first years outperform men
Yeah.
because they're often higher educated,
Yeah.
which means they start at the higher
Yeah.
either position or payroll. But then something happens before 35, and that is the part-time thing that you don't feel at the beginning, but after 5 years you see that people are progressing quicker.
Mm-hmm.
These are situations thrown at you at work. And I stated earlier, I'm a very ambitious woman,
Yeah.
and I love working, as weird as it sounds, but I
No,
really do.
I get it.
And I had moments where I thought I'm gonna quit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna step down. This, when it hurts so much to be successful, then I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I think as a woman, in the back of your head, you always do have this socially accepted exit of motherhood
Yeah.
and stepping down then because it's a normal thing to do. And I just, to an anecdote, I had a friend who was very unhappy in her career. She was an engineer, the only woman in the team.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point she just wanted out. She didn't want to feel crap at work anymore. So she texted her boyfriend, so let's make a baby.
Oh my.
And but that is exactly what I mean. It
Yeah.
is like that had nothing only to do with her wanting to be a mother also, but she was just also really unhappy
Yeah.
at her job. So I think a lot of things are at play
Yeah.
when we talk about are women not ambitious or lazy. I really don't think so.
Yeah.
But they're operating in a system that has not been designed for them.
Yeah. Okay. But at one point in the same documentary, the question is asked to several young girls if you can choose between a fun job, a good working place with good vibes, a good atmosphere, or a job where you can make a lot of money. It's
Hmm.
one of the two. You cannot have both. What are you choosing? And almost all young girls, almost all women said, I'm going for the fun job, for the job that makes me feel good. And then they asked the same questions to young men and boys. And
Hmm.
there was just one boy, one
Let's
boy
go for the
who said,
money.
yeah, he said, I want both. And the rest said, I want to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
There was one guy who said, I want both. I want a fun job and make some nice money. And the other ones were, no, I want some money. So, what is then the difference between men and women? Don't women want to make money? Is it not priority thing to make money?
I think it's different values, but
Mm-hmm.
it's again also playing back into this culture thing. I think it is also cultural. And I have to say, the Netherlands stand out a lot for me when it's about the importance of having a nice job.
Yeah.
Nice in the way of fun, and
Yeah.
you can live your potential
Yeah.
and you have nice colleagues. When you go to London, for example, to the
Mm-hmm.
UK or to Germany, and you ask people about that, I think you would get a very different answer because the mentality goes more towards a job is your career
Yeah.
and that has a goal. and the goal is to be financially independent, to progress, and that it needs to be nice is also a very Dutch thing. But I mean, to be fair, I am German and I strive on that mentality. I also love in the Netherlands that there's a work-life balance. In a lot of other countries, that's not the case. So I think it is, again, a cultural thing. And is it bad, though? The inequality in perception is bad. So that men and women want different things, that's okay, of course. But as long as men are striving for the full-time jobs and the money and women don't, we keep inequality going.
Yeah.
And is that problematic? Probably not on an individual level, but on a bigger level, it is.
Yeah.
It really is. I think you were also citing before Sander Schimmelpenninck, right? Who calls women part-time princesses, and he makes the case that if a woman doesn't take the opportunity to make a career, it was wasted money to educate her. Very, very harsh words. Is there some truth to it? Maybe, yes. But I think it is a little bit too dimensional, because an experience that he is not having is what it's like to be a woman in business.
That's right.
And what it's like to come into a business world that is predominantly white and male and 40 plus. And I think you can't call them out only as part-time princesses. It's also not easy to be a woman in business. You're up against a lot of hurdles. You don't have a natural network like men do a lot of times, and that's hard. That makes it harder.
Okay, I completely agree with you. I get it. But what about the other European women? Why can they make it work? And why can Dutch women make it work?
Now, when you look at France, for example, school starts at 9 and it ends at 5.
Yes, that's true.
As long as you keep a system alive that depends on a parent being at home at 1 when kids come out of school, you have a problem. And that's the same in Germany, by the way. Kids are off school at 1. That's why you have a lot of people that don't work full time. In France and Belgium, from what I understand, their school system is different. So it allows people also to have a job. Here, it's expensive. It's expensive to entertain your kids after school. It's a choice that you need to make financially also.
Because I understand that in Belgium, daycare is about 350, 400 euros a month. And in France, the contribution, the financial contribution for daycare is based on your income. So it's a minimum of 3 euros a day and a maximum of 40 euros a day. And then you think to yourself, my, that's a lot. But then it's 200 euros a week and still 800 euros a month, which still is a lot less than it is in the Netherlands.
True. And also, I can imagine that when you need to pay 40 euros a day, your income is also on a level where this sounds like peanuts. Right? I mean, it's not that you earn like 2,000 euros a month and you need to pay 40 euros a day. I think that also is part of it. And there's also the sentiment of if you don't want to be there for your children, why do you have them? And I don't have children. But the thought about having children or discussing how I see I could become a parent one day, I'm already getting judged about children that are not even born yet.
I know.
These are things of, when I mentioned that I don't think I'm going to be the soccer mom. My mom wasn't. I don't think I'm going to be there every Saturday at the soccer field, but I'm a loving mom, I'm sure. I'll do other stuff. Then it's already like critical eyes and like, why not? This is so important for the child. Where I'm like, what? Of course, love and attention is important, but in the Netherlands, there's a very specific idea of what a good mother is.
And
that's true. When drawing that back again to work is, I got the tip from one of our seniors that we're working with that if you need to pick up your kids, don't tell anyone, just block your agenda and say that you're in an appointment. Nobody will question it. Everybody, it's again, visibility, perception. Everybody thinks you're working hard and you go and pick up the kids. As a guy, you can say, hey, I'm leaving early today. I need to pick up the kids. And the perception
Yeah.
is, what a great guy. What a great dad.
Yeah.
Like, so cool that he does it. So there is
Yeah.
this double
Yeah.
standard in the Netherlands
Yeah.
also about parenthood that I find extremely
Yeah.
annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Papadag.
Yeah.
I mean,
I hate the word papadag.
yeah, I mean, it is, of course, it is nice that men are doing it. There's nothing wrong with it, but it is just that we applaud
Yeah.
so much for it while
Yeah.
he's filling the role as a
Yeah.
parent, while we
Yeah.
punish women
Yeah.
in their careers
Yeah.
for being mothers.
Yeah.
That is very, very tricky. But I
Yeah.
also have to say that companies, in general, the companies that we work with, they are getting a lot better at it.
Yeah.
But this sits so deep in our cultural DNA. No policy can make this appear that when a woman becomes a mom, that a lot of people think when she isn't there one time, oh, she gave up on it.
Yeah.
That's the end of her
Yeah.
career.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there was also a woman who works 4 days after giving birth. Oh, well, that's still a lot. A man who works 4 days after his wife gave birth. Wow, that's amazing.
I know what you mean. And I think it is so, it makes me sad
Yeah.
that everyone has something to say about everyone in that regard. The mama mafia is real. My friends have kids.
Yeah.
And what they say about each other and the judgment they pass on mothers in their school.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's horrible. I mean, ladies, we're one sisterhood. If we don't support each other, who
Right.
is? Sometimes, especially when it's about parenthood, I feel that women are a lot more judgmental about other women than
Yeah.
men are.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I think is interesting, so there's a model in Scandinavia, I forgot which country exactly, but they do encourage women to have kids early.
Mm-hmm.
So to have the kids while they're in university,
Mm-hmm.
because they get free childcare, there's more time and flexibility to take care of your child. And once you start your career, your kid is already 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah.
depending on when you had it and how long you studied.
Yeah.
Once you start your career, your kid is already at the age
Yeah.
where they,
Yeah.
they go to school themselves, they start having a social life. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, I think it might be Finland.
Could be.
Finland is being led by 5 women. Did you know that?
Yeah, I didn't know that. And very young women also.
Very young women. 4 of the 5 women are not even 35 yet. Finland has the youngest female prime minister ever, all around the
Nice.
world. Yeah, so that's great. I understand that every woman who gives birth, who has given birth, they get this baby box.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it
The
has
welcome box.
yes, and it has a
Yeah.
supply for many, many months with baby clothes, with blankets, with food. Yeah, I think it's amazing. And the thought behind it is that every baby, every newborn must have the same start as any other kid in the country.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's very, very nice.
Yeah, Finland stimulates paternal leave. Men have 9 weeks paid leave, and women 4 months. And at the moment, the Finnish government works on an adjustment which is called the 5+5+5 model. Then the mother can take up to 5 months, the dad as well, and the other 5 months they can decide who takes the time off, or maybe both.
No, that's really interesting.
And that's really interesting because they say that the more normal it becomes for father to stay home with their kids, and that they like to stay at home with their kids, and it becomes known for other men, for other fathers. They think that these are examples which will attribute to equality.
Well, there was a really interesting article in The Correspondent about that. So they did research into income data in Denmark from 1983. And what they see is that the whole gender pay gap does actually come down to becoming a parent, but only for the mother.
Yeah.
The income drop in Denmark when you become a mother as a woman is 21%.
Yeah.
In Germany, it's 66%.
Oh my.
And I was absolutely shocked
Oh my.
to see that the Netherlands is 46%.
Okay.
So it's much closer to Germany than it is to Denmark. I thought that was very surprising.
Yeah.
And not only that, but what they saw is that when parental leave is optional, it is always the woman that is
Yes.
more likely to take it and have a drop in income.
Yeah.
However, if it's mandatory for men and women to both take the same amount of parental leave, then the interesting thing is the income of the father also drops.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how they know that it has to do with actually childcare.
Oh.
Why there is a pay gap.
Uh-huh.
So the pay gap, again, can be attributed to becoming a parent. And especially the parental leave afterwards is determining how much your income drops. That is then for men and women, depending on who takes it.
Yeah.
If it is mandatory and the gap that you're experiencing in income, that will never close again.
No, that's what I
for
heard
neither.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really interesting one because I think in the past years, there were many conversations about the income gap.
Yeah.
Why is it there? Is it because women don't negotiate as well? It's because they work part-time. And I always thought that these were also the reasons, and it's an unfair system. We work in a man as default system. There are biases, but from this data standpoint, it comes down to parenthood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then drawing it back to the Netherlands, in a country where there's no childcare for children after school, where it is always also taking out stress when one partner stays at home.
Yep.
It's just we won't become equal if we don't find more and more diverse solutions for that work for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, French families, well, of course, the higher income families also have an au pair. Who does the cleaning, the cooking, picks up the kids from school, makes dinner, and then parents come home around 7:30. Then there's family time. And I was like, when I saw this, I was like, yeah, but that's only for the rich families. And then immediately, as if they heard me, it was like, well, this is not only for rich families. Because in all layers of societies, children are being taken care of by other people than their parents, like other family members or friends. And indeed, school starts at 9 and ends at 5. It's different. So do you think we here in the Netherlands that we need to fix the system as well?
Yeah, support system.
Yeah.
That makes me think about, I think it was the first podcast episode of Barack and Michelle Obama, where they spoke about how they grew up and how they were raised by the community.
Yeah.
So there was this really funny example, that they were walking home and somebody did something and the neighbor has already called your mom to report what you did before you even got home, And then you get home and you get immediately like, what? And you even talk back. What's wrong with you? Yeah, I think so. I think, of course, we are also living in a country where we all think we have to do it on our own. And all of the Instagram moms I'm following also suggest that. We are not big on support system, which I think it is, a caretaker doesn't have to be a parent necessarily. I think it enriches a child to have different people to talk to, different people that take care of it. So it's a very individualistic country. Also, when you look at the cultural dimensions of Hoofdsteden, the Netherlands scores very, very high on individualism. And that is that.
Yeah, I get it.
I think at the end, it is your own support system that will take care of it. And is it very common here to drop your kids at the neighbors because you have to go and work?
No.
I don't think so.
No, me neither.
But that has also not been the case where I'm from.
Yeah, okay.
I think there's so much going on at the start of a woman's career, so much that it is also just like it's hard to pin it down. I think the truth of why there are less women in business lays somewhere between the individual that makes certain decisions, businesses that are not equipped for gender equity, they want to, but they don't know how, and the society we live in and the culture we live in. There are a lot of studies, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of insights, but is there this one true answer to where does it come from? No, it's not only parenthood either.
No.
I think what we need, moving forward into the future is just making it normal to work. I mean, of course, people have their own individual decisions. But my appeal to everyone out there is just make an informed decision. If you know that you're going to have a less of a pension, if you know you're going to be less financially independent, and you say, hey, this is my path to go for it, do it, that's fine. And I also don't think that others should pass a judgment on it. I'm an advocate for having these conversations. Having the conversations about what your decisions mean. And at the end of the day, you make the best decision for you. And then you also shouldn't be judged for it. But I think a lot of times the conversation has not even been had.
I think society has a huge, more than we think. I think society has a huge impact on the decisions of women for working part-time.
It's our cultural DNA. It's what we believe to be right or wrong. I totally agree with you. I think that too. But who is society? It's us. And we see a rise of role models doing it differently. And it's always hard to be one of the first ones and be in the front lines of change. I think the last years we have learned so much from the role models out there, like the example of the Prime Minister of Finland being a woman and being very young, the Prime Minister of New Zealand who had a baby in office. It is possible.
It is possible.
And now that we have more women showing the world that it is, and that it's also kind of nice to work full time if you have a nice job and you get paid well, because you can have it both. The more we will see women that want the same.
So what about daycare on the work floor?
That's a good question. I have a lot of nieces and nephews. I can only imagine how that would go. But why not? Like if that's where the solution lays, if the kindergarten is with you in the company, excellent. You can make a walk with your kid at lunch. If that's what it takes, let's go for it. I think we're way too stuck in thinking how it's always been and in the problems rather than thinking in solutions. And I think organizations just need to pay more attention to what women need. Men and women are different, and that's okay. We're equal, but we are not identical. And they should celebrate that. I think there is a lot of new perspective to be gained by having a more diverse workforce, and you need the women. It is also in the long run. There's such a shortage of tech talent already. The population is just getting older. Who's going to pay the pension and healthcare in 20 years? Who is filling all of the open positions? We need women in our economy, in our society to work, because otherwise we can't keep it up. So I think organizations should have a big interest in becoming leaders in gender equity, making it a nice place to work with women and paying them good, because they are as much drivers of our economy as men are. And there's so much untapped labor potential because of that. So, become the best employer for women there is, and I promise you will only benefit, and they will too.
But what about the biases? Because I also read that when there's a company and there are two job applicants, and a young female, like in her 20s, and a young male applicant, also in his 20s, chances are that the company will hire the male applicant because they assume that the woman will want to have children someday. So that, and having children apparently for women is an inconvenience to a company.
Well, I have to say though, that is not my experience with the companies we work for. I just had one company that was very specific on that. I think there are several ways on how you can go about it. One is anonymous hiring. Yeah, so there's an excellent company in Amsterdam that is called Trickle.
Yeah.
There you don't see the gender, the name of the applicant. That is one. But as long as women are on maternity leave for 13 weeks and men for 2 weeks, that is an issue.
Yeah.
And that goes then back to what we discussed about the pay gap.
Yeah.
As long as men and women are not out for the same amount of time,
Yeah.
it is. And I'm a business owner too. Yeah, for your business, it's better to have someone working than to have someone not working.
Yeah.
So what's the way forward to make the parental leave equal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And Iceland does it.
Yeah.
Iceland is doing great at it. It's no problem.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you hire a man or a woman. If they become a parent, they're out for 3 months.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that will happen in the Netherlands, but I'm really honest. But it would be great.
Yeah.
Bias will always be there, but we can become aware of it. And once we're aware of it, we can start working on it. So we need to have these painful, uncomfortable conversations about working part-time, parenthood, conflict, all of these things.
Yeah. Johanna, last question.
Yes.
What is your advice for women who work part-time? They realize their position is fragile, but they don't know where to start and make the necessary changes.
That's a hard one because that is, of course, always depending on your context. I think get all the information that you need to make your decision. Whether that is leaving the company, going to another company, stepping up or down your hours, making a career switch, going back to school, it is absolutely fine to trust your gut feeling and then validate it with facts.
Yeah.
That is my advice.
Yeah.
Don't close your eyes, just walking into any direction. All the information are out there.
Yeah.
Check out Klapstoel Academy. We all have them too for you. And I would also always advise talk to someone that's been in your shoes.
Yeah.
Find a mentor or a coach if you can't find someone to have this conversation with someone that's already been there.
Yeah.
It will give you perspective.
Yeah. Look up all the information you need and then make the decision that is best for you based on your own situation.
100%.
Yeah.
And your career, as much as life, is not a linear line from day one to the end.
No.
There are side steps, there are fallbacks, then you have a great success and you move forward again. It has its ups and downs. That's okay. Take them as they come, but have a plan.
Yeah.
And ideally have plan A, B, and C in place.
Yeah, that's a great one. Have a plan. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Johanna. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciate your input on this very sensitive topic. I really hope a lot of women will take measures into their own hands after listening to us and make sure they realize the seriousness of the consequences of their choices. And even if they want to work part-time, that they make sure that there are other resources to financial independence.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Johanna, for taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciate your input on this very sensitive topic. I hope a lot of women will take measures into their own hands after listening to this episode and make sure they realize the seriousness of the consequences of their choices. And if they do want to work part-time, that they make sure that there are other resources to financial independence. In the next episode, I'm having a conversation with Brooke Kekos and Angeline Constantinou. They will be sharing their personal stories with us about how they survived an abusive relationship, came out so much stronger, and dedicate their lives now as coaches guiding other women to find the strength to leave a toxic relationship. Thank you all for listening. If you would like to be a guest on the show, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear your story. My name is Tina de Keyzer, and this is the Women's Table.